Hello everybody and welcome back. As always, I am Mateo311 and this is your channel for everything VR related. Today, I have the ultimate dose of copium for everybody as we're going to be talking about the Valve Index 2. So get your pipe out, your IV, whatever your preferred means of administration is, so you could take that ample dose right now. Now, when it comes to the OG PCVR gamers out there, we've been poking Valve with a stick for years now, like, come on, do something already. But obviously they operate on Valve time, so while we're waiting, I'm going to break down the perfect scenario of how they can win back the entire VR industry. Now, if you're not familiar with these videos, these are either my future projections or sometimes just a what-if scenario. I love having these conversations about VR, collecting all the information we currently have and then trying to guess what's going to happen in the future, or just having a back and forth with what you guys want to see. So of course, let me know any feedback you have about this type of video or what you think will happen in the future for Valve. And there are of course links and timestamps about everything we'll be discussing, but before we jump in, this video is sponsored by Kiwi Design, one of my favorite sites for VR accessories. They recently released some new Quest 2 headphones that promise to pack some extra bass and increase your audio experience. They currently have my favorite Quest 2 Elite strap with battery pack, and there's plenty of other accessories like enhanced controller grips, replacement facial covers, link cables, and much more. There's a link down in the description, and don't forget to use discount code Mateo311 for 5% off and to help support this channel. Now, before we discuss where Valve is going with the Index 2, I just want to catch everyone up with a 30-second Cliff Notes version of how we got to where we are today. A long time ago, back in 2014, there was this startup called Oculus, and they were breaking into VR technology. Since Valve is in the gaming industry and saw this as a new medium and has always liked future technology, they took an interest and even helped Oculus develop this technology. Along came then Facebook, and they acquired Oculus for $2 billion. Valve had to eventually then partner with HTC to make the Vive, and Facebook went on to give us the Rift. And those were the original VR technologies. Now, besides an interest in technology, Valve makes the bulk of their money by selling games, and this is a new opportunity to sell more games. Now, on the other hand, Facebook had completely different endeavors because they were a social media company known for acquiring either opposition or any type of startup. But they saw the fact that social media was on the decline, they peaked, they went as far as they could, and they wanted to break into the next form of technology, which will eventually become spatial computing, and they went as far as just pivoting their entire company from social media to VR and renaming themselves Meta. Now, over the course of the next 9 years, Meta gave us 6 headsets, including 4 standalone ones and 2 PCVR headsets. They also have another standalone headset on the way coming this fall. On the other hand, Valve gave us one in partnership with HTC, which was the Vive, and then they went on to produce their own headset, the Valve Index. But in the past 4 years, they really haven't done anything hardware related at all. Now, we have seen a constant stream of patents come from Valve, and Gabe Newell did promise us 3 high-quality games, plus ways to make the Valve Index cheaper, lighter, and wireless, but we really only got 1 game, and those 2 other games have basically disappeared, as far as we know. Additionally, they've also moved on to a whole new endeavor, their mobile handheld device, the Steam Deck. But this right here is how they can move right back into the VR market. All they need to do is follow suit with what they started on the Steam Deck hardware. Now, the Index was never meant to be a high-selling device. Valve knew this going in, and they actually don't even have the means for mass production. So it was gonna be this enthusiast, high-grade, obviously high-priced device, but it was extremely popular and is only now starting to wane in its sales. It's been on and off sold out for the past 4 years, and now it's finally dropping off because the technology is dated. Now, Valve wants the Index 2 to be a higher selling device. They're gonna have to subsidize it just like Meta does with the Quest and what they're actually doing with their Steam Deck right now. The Quest has become so appealing because of its $400 price tag. Meanwhile, everyone else is selling something for $1,000 or more. HTC and Pimax are in the hardware business, so they need to make a profit on every headset sold with decent margins to cover research and development. On the other hand, Valve or Meta can make up the difference with game sales. So if Valve really wants to sell a lot of headsets, they'll need a sub-$1,000 standalone device, which is actually 100% doable. The Index headset alone was profitable at $500, and it only bloats up to $1,000 because you're adding base stations and those Index controllers. These are obvious corners that can be cut with inside-out tracking. Now, a lower-end device would be great for total sales, but not ideal for the OG VR enthusiasts who expect the best of the best from Valve, so that's why they should go ahead with a modular design. Once again, just like the Steam Deck, we need different tiers of headsets or the ability to later add on separate functionality. There's currently a huge market for Quest accessories, so this is both an avenue to make up for the subsidized hardware and to help appease everyone in the VR community. We need everything from an entry-level model with the lowest possible price tag, all the way up to the God tier Index 2 with all the bells and whistles. Those who aren't sure about VR can get in for cheap, and then over time add any of the options they want. Ultimately, when it comes to overall sales, both the hardware and price tag are the main determining factors. But in order for this device to be successful long term, it would be all about the software. Once again, Valve needs to take a page out of the Steam Deck book. Similar to Steam Deck verification, we need a VR game verification program. Valve needs to be much more involved in giving developers the tools and knowledge they need to get their games running as best as possible with maximum hardware support. Valve is already a master when it comes to VR game production, as the free-to-play demo, The Lab, released back in 2016, is still better than most games releasing today, and of course they gave us the masterpiece that is Half-Life Alyx. It's also rumored that some members of Valve's staff helped the release of Vertigo 2, which was another absolutely fantastic VR game. Besides just helping developers, Valve also needs to release some new banger titles and prepare an excellent launch lineup. Those two missing games that Gabe Newell spoke about years ago need to come to fruition, and ideally, one of them should be crossplay with flat screen. This way, you can introduce a lot more people into VR by just showing them that it's worth looking into. You have this great game, and there's a whole new way to play it? Sure, I want to check that out. So what's the likelihood that any of this can happen? Well, for starters, this is the Valve Index 2, not Index 3, so that makes it much more likely because we know Valve can't count to 3. Okay, jokes aside, Valve has to do what's best for the company. As much as we'd like them to throw all into VR, it's definitely not the right play for them, and they would be going up against Meta, who's absolutely huge, and who wants to do that? Things are always in a state of flux over at Valve, but one thing I could say for certain is they have a plan, and generally they like to push technology forward. They might be waiting on a practical application of a brain computing interface or some new wireless tech. Whatever the case may be, we haven't seen the end of Valve and VR just yet. But while I'm laying out all my hopes and dreams, let's just go over a few other things I'd like to see happen. It would be great if Valve started to play nice with Sony in terms of VR titles. The majority of Sony's exclusive flat screen games are already coming over to Steam, including God of War, Last of Us, Ratchet & Clank, Spider-Man, just to name a few. I'd love for them to do the same with VR games. PlayStation VR 2 owners deserve to get to play Half-Life Alyx, and PCVR owners should be playing games like Resident Evil 8 and Horizon Call of the Mountain. I'd also love to see Valve embrace the flat to VR mod scene. Anything they could do to either increase visibility or make these games easier to install and run would be a huge benefit to the PCVR community. Now, I'm sure plenty of you came to this video looking for concrete Valve Index 2 updates, but unfortunately, they're going to keep that information locked down. Now, between public comments, patents, and some data mined information from Steam updates, we know they're still tinkering away with VR. Unfortunately, though, things are still really early, and we can only speculate on the hardware the Index 2 will have. We're assuming there'll be standalone functionality, wireless PCVR capabilities, eye tracking, plus some pass-through augmented reality, but we'll have to wait and see if there's any other curveballs. But what do you guys think Valve has in store for the future of VR, and my recommendations for them going forward? I'd love to hear from you guys down in the comments. Go write up something right now like, Matt, you're an idiot, you didn't make any sense, or write on, this is what Valve needs to do. Now, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Again, I'm trying to get closer with you guys, more personal, give my opinion as much as possible, so let me know what you think about that. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on next time.